something is wrong in Hawkins. Not the kind of wrong you whisper about in the dark, but the kind of wrong that stares back at you. Because after Volume 1 of Stranger Things Season 5 dropped, half the world jumped headfirst into the theory pit, and the other half is pretending they didn't. And honestly, I'm right there with the insane ones, because the clues this season left behind aren't clues at all. They feel like warnings. Vecna hunting children again. Holly talking to someone who shouldn't exist. Will feeling a pain that started in Season 1, yet somehow feels brand new. And the Mind Flayer? Suddenly acting as if Henry Creel was never the real villain, but the first victim. But here's the disturbing part. What if Vecna isn't trying to destroy the world this time? What if he's trying to save it? And deeper still, why does Holly's imaginary friend look exactly like the uncorrupted Henry Creel? A version of him that should not exist anywhere, not in Hawkins, not in the Upside Down, not even in memory. Tonight, we dive into the theories that fans whispered, memed, feared, denied, and secretly hoped would never be true. Because if even one of these theories is real, Season 5 is not ending the way you think. Hawkins has changed. Not in the obvious monsters are back way, but in the quiet way, the wrong way, the way that makes you feel like someone is rewriting the rules behind the curtain. Kids disappearing again, clocks chiming at impossible hours, Will suddenly sensing Vecna's pulse inside his own chest like a memory he never asked for. And then there's the one clue nobody expected. The Broadway prequel, Stranger Things: The First Shadow. The Duffer Brothers didn't just approve it, they called it canon, and that changed everything. Because in the play, Henry Creel is not born evil. He doesn't murder because he wants to. He doesn't crave destruction. He is taken, dragged into Dimension X as a child, corrupted, twisted, shaped like clay until the Mind Flayer molded him into something else. A weapon, a puppet, a shadow pretending to be a man. And if that is true, then the Vecna we've been terrified of for years might be the one character who deserves saving. The anti-hero nobody wanted. A massive theory exploded online after Volume 1. Vecna is heading toward a redemption arc. At first, it sounds insane. Vecna, the butcher of children, the architect of Hawkins' nightmares, the monster whose name still makes Max freeze in place. But then you remember something. Vecna didn't create the Mind Flayer.
He didn't command it. He served it. Everything he did, every body he took, every scream he carved into Hawkins was under the influence of something older, colder, and infinitely more dangerous. The Mind Flayer didn't just corrupt Henry, it rewrote him. So when fans say, maybe Vecna will help Eleven stop the Mind Flayer, they aren't talking about mercy. They're talking about revenge. Vecna's secret plan, the 12 kids. Now here's where the story gets uncomfortable. Vecna is abducting children again, but not the way he did before. He's not killing them, he's collecting them. Holly, her classmates, kids the same age as Will when he was taken. 12 children, 12 clocks, 12 pieces of a puzzle Vecna has been assembling for decades. The obvious theory was simple. He's building an army. But the newer, darker theory, the one spreading through the fandom like wildfire, he's building a resistance against the Mind Flayer. Because Vecna knows something we don't. He cannot defeat the Mind Flayer alone. He tried. He failed. He was broken. He was reshaped. So he's doing the only thing he can, gathering supernatural children the Mind Flayer doesn't know exist. Because what the Mind Flayer cannot see, it cannot stop. And that's why Vecna spared Will. Not because he couldn't kill him, but because Will is the key. Will is the scar. Will is the unfinished story. Only someone who has survived the Mind Flayer can help destroy it. And Vecna knows this. Holly's imaginary friend. Let's talk about Mr. Watson. To the adults, he's an imaginary friend. To Holly, he's a guardian. To us, he's the biggest red flag of the entire season. Because Mr. Watson is not Vecna, not the monster, not the twisted husk. He's Henry Creel, but not the murderer, not the corrupted boy, not the version trapped in the upside down. He's Henry before the Mind Flayer touched him, the untainted Henry, the human Henry, the boy who never stood a chance. Why would Vecna show Holly this version of himself? Two possible answers. One, he's hiding his true intentions from the Mind Flayer. If the Mind Flayer can see Henry's mind, then Henry must hide his rebellion inside a form the Mind Flayer would ignore. Or two, he trusts Holly. Not Max, not Will, not 11. Holly. Why her? Because Holly is still innocent enough to believe him, but brave enough to follow instructions. And then he does something unbelievable. He gives Holly a boombox. Music, the one weapon that weakens him. Why would Vecna hand a child the exact tool that can break his illusions? Unless he wants her to escape. The mailbox incident.
Most people missed this detail. Vecna didn't hand the gift to Holly. He placed it in a mailbox Holly has never opened before. Why? Because inside that mailbox was Max's note, and Vecna wanted Holly to find it. But here's the problem. If Vecna wanted to help Max and Holly escape, why didn't he send a message directly? Why didn't he warn them openly? Because the Mind Flayer watches him. Every thought, every memory, every emotion. Henry Creel is not living inside his own head. He's surviving inside an enemy's prison. So every act of rebellion must look like obedience. The Cave Fear. Season 5, Episode 3. The Cave Scene. Vecna, one of the most terrifying beings in the Upside Down, walks into a cave and freezes, terrified. Why? Because this is the cave where Henry's life ended and restarted. The cave where he was dragged into Dimension X, where he first felt the shadow tendrils slide into him, where he became the Mind Flayer slave. Vecna feared this place, because this is where his nightmare began. And that single moment proves something. Henry Creel hates the Mind Flayer more than he hates anyone in Hawkins. Put everything together. Vecna collecting 12 children, Vecna giving them powers, Vecna hiding motives from the Mind Flayer, Vecna sparing Will, Vecna showing Holly his uncorrupted self, Vecna planting clues, Vecna terrified of the cave, Vecna being a victim in canon. All signs point to one thing.